Why are you called MathPig, if you don't mind me asking? Are you a pig that does maths? No, that doesn't sound right.
No, originally when I came to the community, I had a name of Math Magic Pagan because I don't like pigeonholes. I don't like the atheist term, the agnostic term, and I found that the connection of the three words, math being a love of science, magic being I've experienced things I can't yet explain, and pagan, I ain't no Christian, so it's sort of put me together, and ended up just getting shortened to MathPig because Doorknob Head. I don't know if anyone knows Doorknob Head. Was he suggested MathPig one time?
Oh, I've heard of Doorknob Head.
Oh, not familiar.
Oh, okay, so now you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I don't know you. I don't know you that big, so I'm made of questions. So since Dee was nice enough to break the ice, right, we went live and just asked you, like, what the hell does your name mean?
Yeah.
As if I would ever phrase it. I'm quite sarcastic. Sorry.
I want to unpack a part of the answer that you give. You said you don't like to be pigeonholed as like agnostic atheist.
Well, if you were to have a conversation with someone now, I would probably make life easier and say I would be an agnostic atheist. It just makes going forward easier, depending on who you're talking to. But most of the time, it makes your life easier when you're going forward and having these conversations. But it was just...
What's moving forward for you? What's moving forward in a conversation? Just out of curiosity, when you're having these kinds of discussions, what kind of discussions are they?
Well, if someone asked me what I stood for or what I believe in or who I am, and I said an agnostic atheist, and then we spent 2 days fighting over what their words meant, then I would say that the conversation didn't move forward.
Let me guess who that was.
Titan.
Titten Uranus.
What happens when you come across those people that adamantly refuse to accept the fact that you can be an atheist and an agnostic?
Even D, when it comes to things like that, there's another person in the community that would be very particular on even the way that you say a word. He will argue with me over the pronunciation of a word, never mind what it means. And you can watch my channel a couple of weeks ago. It came to a head where he was talking to Ontangelo, and Ontangelo is Ontangelo. But he'd only like 10 seconds left of what he was trying to say, and this guy spoke over the top of him, and I did a full-blown Irish rant at him and screamed and shouted. And, don't like it. Don't like it.
Don't play.
And this guy spoke over the top of him.
All right, so
I did a full-blown Irish rant at him and screamed.
Oh, wait, what is that? Is that someone's computer in the background? Okay, I thought I heard a background thing. So, assuming you can get over that hump and that obstacle about, like category, titles, labels, bullshit. Where is forward movement in the conversation for you?
I like to know why people think what they think. It's easy to make
You're singing my song, brother.
It's easy to make a statement about I believe this, but the question is, why do you believe that? It's were you raised that way? Did you have an experience, a personal testimony, this, that, and the other? And you get down into the whole idea of, why are they the person they are, and
what makes you tick?
Yeah, what makes you tick?
So here's a question for you, because I am totally I'm aligned with that particular strategy. I love that. That being said, do you believe people when they tell you why they believe what they believe?
Everybody gets one at the pigsty. Everybody gets one. If you come on and you seem genuine, you will be invited back. You will be part of the community, and we will try and do our best. But if you come on and you come across as a po or you come across as a troll, you'll still get to finish your bit and your bob, but you will never be asked back again. Every single one of your troll accounts will be banned from the live chat, except your original, so we can all see you being an asshole. But you will never be back on my channel again.
I love clear boundaries. Let me ask my question a little bit different way. Even for people that are being genuine, do you believe the answers that they give when they tell you why they believe what they believe? Do you believe humans?
Most of the time, I would believe people. Yeah, I try to limit myself with, people of a certain intelligence. I don't want to go down to the farm and talk to that sort of person that just doesn't care and, supports Trump, doesn't give a fuck and all the rest of it. They have no desire to learn, improve themselves or move forward. The people in this panel now, I know some of them here, and from my interactions with them, I know that these people are open. I know that they're willing to have a conversation. They're willing to listen to the other side.
Okay. And then what do you do with that information? Because I have a different take on it. I am
Well, generally with that information, I just find out about the person. Usually if you watch my channel, I do an interview. We try and drag you on. We make you part of the community. We'll drag you over to Dave's quiz and things like that. And we try and just make you one of our friends, make you one of our family, and try and get to know you if you're decent enough to do that. The community is growing and we've got people that can do this, that, and the other. We try and help out other people and go through that. But I just like to talk. I like to meet people. And if you're an asshole, I'll call you out on it.
So yeah, you're using a lot of overlapping terms that are in my lexicon. So you keep referring to community and family and friends and bringing you in and calling in instead of calling out. Now I'm kind of twisting your words towards.
No, I get it. Yeah.
But I don't think that you disagree, right? It doesn't sound like you would, at least from.
I have been put in the position where I'm sort of in charge, like a leader or whatever the fuck. It's the pigsty community because of MathPig, but I didn't go out of my way to do this. It's just something that's built up around me, and with the help of you.
Well, then that's a testament. That's a testament to something that you believe in coming to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people come, people watch, they appreciate the honesty, and I find that I have a good loyal base. The people who come to and watch, they do watch regular, there's decent enough numbers, and they respect the fact that I take no bullshit and I call people out on it.
And so, who are the people that pique your interest to have these kinds of conversations? Like I saw recently that you had Noel Plum on.
No,
I think that he's more of a regular, is he not?
No, Noel Plum doesn't do interviews at all, man. Noel Plum has been going for years, but very rarely does do interviews. I've been following him for God knows how long.
I invited him to an interview like 7 years ago when I was doing a show called Meeting of the Minds.
Yeah. Noel Plum I think his mind, the way that he looks at things, he's very analytical. He's very much like Pine Creek, if everybody knows Pine Creek, the way they can analyze things and look at them and take them apart. But I find that Noel Plum can be more interactive with the crowd. He doesn't have that straight up analytical personality, and he has that funny side. Plus, he has the other side as well, the other channel that he gets drunk on and makes a fool out of himself every now and again. So you get to see both sides of him, I as I say, I've been following him I was more excited about having Noel Plum on than Aaron Ra or Holy Kool-Aid or anybody, because Noel Plum is Noel Plum.
He's
a good, he's a good guy. He's
And ladies, he's a fireman.
My favorite video is where he gets the T-Rex out and he rips out that particular person who doesn't like the definition of atheism, where he gets this wee kid's T-Rex and he's just it's just so funny.
He's a funny guy, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everyone's courtesy in being quiet while I kind of started questioning MathPig. But I mean, please start. If you have any questions or comments or things that are said, remind you of thoughts that you have that you want to expand upon. That's what this is all about. Like I said, I very much respect the fact that everyone's like, allowing me to get my questions in, because this is a new guy and I want to bring him into my community. I want to see whether he's full of shit. I want to determine what my criteria.
Well, I can answer that question. I have a few things to say about that. Yeah, hold on.
Nick knows me a long time. Nick can give you a general synopsis of what sort of person I am.
I already have. Don't worry, Maddie and I thought.
All good things, I'm sure.
Listen, as soon as I said it, too. Listen, I said the worst shit you can imagine, and the next thing he does is he said, "Oh, I'm bringing them on. I'm bringing them on."
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
That's my kind of guy. How can I get active? I got friends in low places. I think I can add this.
No, well, as I
and
say,
you know me as well. Sorry.
Everybody's favorite Fundy.
Fundy, yeah, Fundy. Oh dear, sorry about that.
No, I haven't dropped in. MathPig is great. Every time I don't. My YouTube notifications, I don't. But every time I see if he's up and then I come in, he always is like, "Nick, come on in." I was just like, "Great, somebody will listen to me talk."
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea. Because at the end of it, I'm reaching out now. Tomorrow I've got a person coming on called Overprotected Atheist, small wee channel. They've just hit 100 the other day. They've just started out, And then the week after that, I've got a fella who has 17,000 subscribers that's been off YouTube for 5 years. And from what I can pick up from what he's coming back, he's a wee touch of a right-wing Australian, you know. And so that'll be an interesting bring-in and an interesting conversation, because he seems open to conversation, but definitely not aligned with everything we think and everything that we would agree with. And that's what I want, is to try and bring people from every direction, because the more people we have, even if we don't agree.
Hold on a second. All right, so I'm gonna focus on that. What's the value in bringing in people that have different perspectives?
It's boring if you surround yourself in an echo chamber. It's really boring.
What's the limit? What's the limit of other perspectives that
the limit of others' perspective would probably be if you come in and say that women belong in the kitchen and slavery in the Bible was cool. You know, that's maybe a limit of wanting to have you in. Like, but you can be a Christian and be part of the community. We've got Spartan Theology and a few other ones that are, you know, come regular in our open mic nights, and it's good to have that perspective, because the topics that we discuss are on atheism and skepticism and things like that, and you can't discuss atheism without discussing theism. So it's good to have someone that would be a representative of that there, that you can actually talk to and who's not an asshole. And
a good version of the argument too, right? Yeah. Somebody who can actually eloquently state the opposing argument in a way that is not the straw man, easy to knock down, you know, like non-nuanced, you know, ham-fisted version of the argument, right?
Yeah, I mean, There's the is it a G.K. Chesterton quote? If there were no theists, there would be no atheists.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need something to be aggressive against. No?
Sorry.
Do you not think so?
Sorry, I'm giving Titan shit in the chat. He's asking me to say his name, and I refuse to say his surname. I
go. Oh, Neil does. Neil laughs his ass off every time.
Ooh, Titan Uranus?
Titan Uranus.
I will not say it. I haven't said it since he changed his name. I won't. And it just no.
Titan Uranus.
I'd like to say it Titan Uranus, just because I'm that kind of guy.
That's true. You are.
Just to annoy Tony more than anything else.
I mean, I really do think when it comes to that phrase, Mouty, that the people who disagree with it probably think it's saying a lot more than it is.
Sorry, disagree with what phrase?
The phrase, if there were no theists, there would be no atheists.
Oh, right, not Titan's name.
Yeah, no, not Titan's name. I'm just...
He's redirecting us. We just
past that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Recalibrating us back to the conversation.
Someone is trying real hard to get on that definitional question.
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
Oh, man,
if there were no theists, we'd all be atheists. That's the answer to that.
Well,
it addresses a bunch of different questions. One of which is, you know, like the surface level topic, which is atheism and theism or versus. Another is, if you dig down a little bit deeper, like, you know, just basic tribalism. And I think that some people would use the term, without theists, there wouldn't be atheists, as a way of saying, hey, you know, like, we could all get along if this one version didn't exist. And I think that that's bullshit, because I think tribalism is going to exist regardless of what those boundaries are, right? So I say this all the time, but since I don't know, you know, who is watching and how many times people have heard this, but there is a South Park episode where they are projecting into the future where everyone's an atheist, but now everyone's arguing about what the right version of atheism is. What
we turned into the fucking Christian church
is. What's that?
That says we've turned into the Christian church, fighting over definitions and demonetizations and this, that, and the other.
Exactly.
Look, music, sports, colour, gender, you name it.
Absolutely.
People will split off about it. Even if you all like football, you'll split off over which team. You'll split over like go for rugby. Do you like rugby union or rugby the other one that I can't remember what it's called? Do you know what I mean? It's like, doesn't matter what bloody subject you bring up. You will find everyone, like a whole bunch of people who love music. Now let's start talking about genres and see where it goes.
Well,
and then when you've narrowed it down to the genre, wait till we get to the bloody subgenre.
There is only one proper rugby team, and that is the Springboks. And if you say otherwise, you're just wrong.
Oh,
yeah. You can keep your sports ball.
You keep the sports ball. Keep the sports ball in the sports ball lane.
Well, rugby is closer to American football than football is.
I grew up in a music-oriented family, so we didn't play sports.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm like, yay, team.
Yeah, we played music before and after the sports.
And during.
I mean, we did in high school. I did do some of that, sure.
I think I'm well-rounded. I like all of it. I like music. I like the sports, but I definitely have my teams. And if you pull against my teams, you're just wrong. It's like pulling against a different god, you know.
Thank you for proving my point.
Yeah.
Also, we already have atheists bickering over the right form of atheism.
Well, the right form of atheism is my form.
I'm just going to throw gas on that and say that some of them like to call themselves agnostics.
Yeah.
I'm not going to run away from this conversation.
Oh, please run.
I think that there is a legitimate discussion about
The simple discussion about it is when a person
Steve McRae made a whole
that.
thing about it. You know, you just go watch that whole PowerPoint thing.
Do you mean a Venn diagram?
I think no. This was more than a Venn diagram. He spent some serious time trying to explain what we all already knew about, atheism, agnosticism. But I mean, it was.
There are very interesting conversations to be had about the difference between knowledge and belief. That is not.
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting topic. Atheism and agnosticism is not.
But that is what it comes down to, right? Or at least that's what a chunk of the argument comes down to, right? Gnosis, knowledge versus belief, and there are interesting questions to be had about the difference between knowledge and belief. And I think
not that I want to run down the rabbit hole, but it seems to be more just an equivocation on psychological attitudes.
Yes.
I agree. I was going to say, I wouldn't have put it that way. I would have said a semantics game, but it is kind of a semantics game.
Well, I'm with MathPig on this. I think all of this is bullshit, this categorized. Because I want to talk about how you came to what you believe, right? And so since I brought that back up, I'm going to explain why I disagree with you, MathPig, about taking at face value what people say is the reason why they believe what they believe. I think that as humans, we are horrible at figuring out why we believe what we believe. I think that we're so prone to post hoc justification of reflexive choices and instinctive choices that we can't account for consciously, that we're predictably irrational on these very topics. And every story we tell is a just so story that happens to work.
I am one of those people that will freely admit I don't know why I'm an atheist. I just am. I wasn't taught to be an atheist. I wasn't taught to be a theist. I just don't believe, and that's as far as I'm aware. I just don't believe, and that's it. There may be more to it that I haven't looked at.
You can differentiate between, in a doxastic sense, belief and ideas. So, a belief is going to have conclusive or non-conclusive justification. An idea is going to have non-conclusive or inconclusive justification. When you believe something, it means you got a stake in it. You'll go into the streets and hold up a sign. I believe in this. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't believe it. You just got an idea about it. It's the same epistemic category.
That kind of sums me. I'm like, I put myself in the same category, for want of argument, with MathPig, in that I consider myself to be an agnostic atheist. I don't know if a God exists. I highly doubt it.
But that sounds like the distinction between an activist and someone who's not an activist.
Yeah, I'm really lazy, so that would imply that like I don't believe most things. Lazy.
Now I'm with Scott. Absolutely with Scott.
I can believe that.
I believe gravity is real, but I'm not going to take to the streets and pick a fight with someone if they're denying it. I'm probably just going to go, I'm going to stay away from you for a multitude of reasons, not least of which being current events.
Yeah, I did that.
So
for
please,
like
please
15
don't
minutes,
think
yeah.
that I'm saying that they're on like different epistemic levels, right? They're not. I just think that the word belief carries so much extra baggage that is not epistemic. That, you know,
The bigger problem is that it's a cluster concept. Belief is a cluster concept is the bigger thing. In different contexts, what we mean by believe is very different.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, sure. So that's why I say it carries this extra baggage with it, right? So if you
ask me if I believe in Biden, is asking you a very different question from do I believe in gravity?
That's a contextual way of the English language.
Right. Yeah. And so like that, but the problem is that a lot of people love to pretend that it's all the same.
Oh yeah, well, I get a lot of people that would conflict faith and what we would, and you would say it yourself. You know, I have faith to go out and the car's going to start in the morning, and I'm using faith as in I know I trust it because I do it all the time.
I assume Vox was referring
you just
to belief
on the one of the
what we're
landmines.
talking about.
I did it.
Yeah, I'm just referring in this context to like belief in like the way we would use it, like in the form of doing, you know, raising something level of belief, right, and to knowledge or something like that, right? Like an ascent to knowledge, so to speak.
Two things, Scott. If there's something you can do to bring down the volume of your mic, you're just a touch hot. And Vox, I want to hear you unpack your idea. Like you said that there was epistemic difference. It almost sounded like you were getting to the point where it's a cleaner conversation if we leave belief out of it and have wait, what was it? It's like you were trying to clean
ideas.
Up the conversation and language. Ideas.
Yeah. Well, so when we talk about belief, as I don't know your name, Scott pointed out, right? There's a lot of other contextualization that can go along with that word. When we use it in an epistemic sense, oftentimes people will sneak in attitudes, right, towards that word. So when you ask somebody like, why do you believe this, right, and they might say something that carries no epistemic justification behind it, but they believe it, right? And it's kind of like believe in Biden. Why do you believe in Biden? Well, you know, this like emotional, esoteric political faith or something like that, you know, belief in the restoration of the American dream or something. But that's not a belief in the way that I'm talking about. And then when you're talking about why do people believe things, it's just better to separate. So like you said, you're a lazy person, right? And you say, I believe in gravity, but I wouldn't go out into the streets and fight for like the definition of gravity. Well, I would say you don't believe in gravity. I would say you have an idea of gravity. I don't think anybody has.
Like, I'm sorry, Scott. I don't mean to call you out too bad, but like a physics example versus an idea example is like, come on, dude.
Well, no, I think it's a good demonstration though, because well, no, it's actually a good example, right? Because idea and belief are going to be on the same epistemic level, right? They're going to require the same epistemic assent, so you're going to have doxastic justification for both. The process of getting there, going through Sigiriya, is going to be the same, right? But where one carries this extra thing, right, this stake in it, so to be, right? I believe in transgender rights. I'm willing to go out in the street and yell at people for those things. I have this belief. It's got that extra psychological attitude towards it.
But to get back to what I was talking to MathPig about, what about people's justifications for why they believe what they believe? Like, you really so are you trying to set up a definition of belief where you have to be consciously acknowledging the justifications? Because my point is it's implicit. We're post hoc rationalizing a reflexive, instinctive choice-making module that exists in our brain beyond our consciousness.
Sure, yeah, when we do stuff, you know, and somebody says, well, why did you do that, right? We generally don't, we are generally not able to identify the thought process that occurred leading up to what we're doing. We go back and we say, well, it must have been this, it must have been this, and then we
otherwise we'd
attempt to rationalize it. Right?
Yeah.
Which is true. Yeah, so like, it's better to walk someone through some like street epistemology process. Just be like, what is the justification for this? And if it's inconclusive justification, which most of the time it will be, well, then you don't have a belief. You don't even have an idea. You have an assumption. You have a presupposition.
Hey,
Well,
Vox, real quick, unpack what the street epistemology method is.
oh, that's just kind of, I think, what MathPig was almost talking about, right? You say someone's just like, I believe this thing. And you just say, okay, why do you believe it?
Yeah,
Right, and then you go through all the justifications, and then you say, you know, what would make you more or less confident in this belief? Like, what would raise your confidence percentage in this particular belief? What would lower it? And then, is there any countervailing evidence? Well, why do you do that? And then you just, the idea is to find bad beliefs, because most people, we want to believe true things, and so you just say, well, why do you think this is true? You go through the whole process, but then you just ask them that question: what would make you more confident? And they'll be able to tell you that. What make you less confident? They'll struggle with that one.
The philosophy, the strategy that, or the way or perspective, the perspective that I just laid out is my argument against street epistemology. I think street epistemology is good. I like street epistemology. Mm-hmm. I just think that it's chasing.
It can be very leading. You can get the answers you want, because that's the whole goal of it, is you're asking the questions to get the answers that you sort of want them to hear, to set them off. Street epistemology, but sorry.
So, no, I'm going to, so let's you and I talk about this real quick, MathPig, if you are a proponent of this. As I understand it, and just to unpack street epistemology just a touch more. Street epistemology currently is a trademarked thing from Anthony Magnabosco, or who I like to call Anthony Magnabosco. And he got his idea from, I have the book right around the corner, How to Create Atheists, from Peter Boghossian, right?
Yeah.
So that's the lineage of that idea, at least. All of that to say, and what was the one thing that you just said, MathPig?
That they're leading questions, and you will get the answer that you think that you want them to hear.
And it's because, and I agree with that. And the reason why I agree is because their pursuit for truth, right? Because everything is hinged on, well, don't you want to know the truth? Well, isn't the truth important? Don't you value the truth? And because I think they're, to put it badly, fetishizing, to put it semi-neutrally, weaponizing, right, what the truth is, I think that they do promote very leading questions, to your point. So, but what did you mean by that? Well, go ahead, Simon.
Could I just jump in a second and just sort of say, I kind of agree with MathPig here, I think more, right, but I've also got an argument against it. I would say, I would say, just to tread the divide, I would say that basically for me, and this isn't necessarily the case, okay, so this is first, but it does seem to me that when you're asking, or street epistemology assumes there is an answer. And I think, you know, we all realize, or we should have realized by this point, that there are no answers at the very bottom, right? There are only the presuppositions that we all have, and we take those on faith, whether we're, you know, theists, atheists, or anywhere in between.
Whatever you want to call them, right? Axioms. Or
whatever. Exactly. But the point is, you know, they're going to be circular. They're going to be, or it appeal to some sense of foundation, which is unjustified, or whatever the last one was, you know, it's, you know, or an appeal to an infinite regress if you're that wacky.
The problem I have with the street epistemology is it's going to the point where he has, as you say, Simon, he has his own presuppositions, his own bias, and he knows exactly what he wants to hear, and he wants to lead the other person to say. If you're having a conversation with someone and I want them to find the realization of something, I've come across, like, if I walked into a room and said the sky's blue, and argued with someone who had been in a house all their life and never seen outside and was told that the sky is purple, they will argue with me that the sky is purple. But you take them and you show them, they need to come to that realization themselves. Telling them what it is and leading down the route to they say it, it's just going off a script. The actual person themselves has to come to the realization and has to find that. Like, I will talk to someone.
I'm going to interrupt real quick, guys. So I'm going to send an invite to Anthony. And so is everyone cool with that? Like,
oh yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah.
Would you be okay with saying them to Anthony's face? Should he have the time to come in?
Of course, yeah.
No, yeah.
All right, cool.
He's a good guy. I like Anthony.
He's
I enjoy listening to him.
He's the sweetest guy, and everyone's going to be cool to him.
But just
I asked him for an interview before.
Just to say that, it's like the presupposition which seems to be there is a reason as to why you believe what you believe, and that's not the case always. I think he would agree, and that there is a shovel here which we're digging with by asking these questions, and you're going to hit, the bottom of a rather difficult thing where there is just not going to be an answer. And I think the object is to get to that point, and then agree to disagree if you have fundamentally different presuppositions or faith positions, or however you want to say it, or just to say that there's a reason why I think that is a bad idea.
The correlation I would be trying to say, if Dave was here, he would know better than me, is there's an old British show from like the 70s or whatever it was, and they're talking about surveys, and it's two people in a business room and this, that, and the other, and the guy asks two different surveys and leads the other person both directions and agrees with the statement at the end of it, which are two polar opposites each other. And it just goes to show the way that you can lead a conversation and lead questioning to get the outcome that you desire. It's just words that they're saying and it's responses to what they're being asked. It doesn't necessarily get to the point of where they feel, deep down. Hopefully they'll leave asking questions, and that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. So if I can just
hold on a second, whoa. Confirmation, because I'm a little bit confused. Because
say that one more time, G.
I'm a little bit confused. I'm not familiar with street epistemology. I'm a little bit.
I tried to explain it.
Can I just explain why I'm confused? Because from what Vox was saying, it seemed to imply to me that you're asking people to think about why. So how is that leading? Unless I'm missing something.
No, you're correct. So the way that I'm using, so the way that I was using it, right, is not to like highlight Bogosian or any of that. I was just using it in what has become a more general sense. Is just like the prove me wrong kind of thing. Like, why do you think what you think? Why do you believe what you do? We're trying to find the entire thinking process, and a lot of times it's going to be post hoc, like Chris pointed out. But it's important to see whether or not that post hoc. What we try to do is we try to take that post hoc rationalization and see if it lines up with, what was actually going on at the time, right? Whether or not this is, you accept your own justifications for things, your own internal justifications for things, whether or not those things strike you as outlandish, right? And whether or not your confidence in those things, once you identify your internal justifications and go through the whole process, would, if you're being honest with yourself, because that's a big thing, being honest with yourself, raise or lower your confidence level about this thing that you purport to believe. And again, when I say believe, what I mean is not only that you merely have some kind of like epistemic assent, but that you have a stake in the thing that you have this idea about. And that's a really good process to go through, even to yourself, right? You can do it in yourself. You can get a whiteboard, right? I use it all the time, and I go through when I'm figuring stuff out, and I say, okay, well, this and this and this.
I have to admit, after listening to the way that you unpacked your thought about the epistemic difference between beliefs and ideas, I think that you and I might be at different. We might have different projects about what belief is and how it's useful, and I think that maybe MathPig might be pointing towards something a little bit different too. But I do want to kind of bring this back around to the question I was asking MathPig, which is because it seems like there is a stark contrast. There is a similarity between us, and also a stark contrast. And I want to focus on the contrast because the similarity seems.
Similarities are no fun. We don't get to shout and argue.
But the Venn diagram is so overlapping. It's like I need to focus on the very the differences.
Scott. I don't. So Scott was going to say something a little while ago, and he's usually got some insights.
Well, then my question, because I have a very specific question. So I'll hold on. I want to make sure Scott gets in. And by the way, Scott, when I said that your question was shitty, I wasn't shitting on you. I was hopefully trying to be a little bit more of a devil's advocate.
No, I get what you were driving at, and I mean, though I do feel like my follow-up of just sort of harping on that, the usage of belief can get kind of twisted and conflated easily, was really more of what I was just trying to drive at there, and I was taking a really broad example.
Yeah, you're right.
Not able to be contested, but yeah, no,
and that's fair.
Yeah, no. It's a stupid comparison. I agree. Anyone on their face would say, no, clearly you don't mean the same thing.
Well, no, it was a really good comparison. It was a really good example. I use, if at least you talk about the gravity thing, I use gravity all the time as an example for a wide variety of things, because it's just a thing that nobody contests outside of like the most like radicalized young earth creationists. Like everybody just accepts gravity, right? It's just there, and it's a really good example because it makes you think about stuff.
Depending on how you use it, it makes it very difficult as a topic of belief, because it is the very water that we're swimming in, right? It's the very air that we're breathing. Like you can't deny gravity. So usually when we're talking about beliefs, we're talking about things that are more societal, man-made, cultural, evolutionary, abstract, obtuse, whatever modifier you want to apply to this. And so that's why I think that gravity is a little bit of a weird example, unless you're saying, again, depending on how you're using it, unless you're saying this is a rock solid foundational belief from which I'm going to make it a different point. But
well, the idea is that you accept the contextualization, right? But you also have to, like, so I assume everybody in this room, at least, we can differentiate between when one word is used in an epistemic sense, when it's used in a colloquial sense, when it's used in a metaphysical sense, when it's used in an ontological sense. And so we kind of freely move between those, but most people don't, which I think is the broader point I was kind of talking about with MathPig's thing, is that, and to dovetail for Scott is that the word belief gets abused so much, right? When people say, oh, I believe this, but you really don't believe it. You barely have an idea of it. What you really have is an assumption that you've never really pondered on, but because it's useful in society, because maybe your immediate friends say the same thing, all these other things, you say, oh, I believe it, right? And so think about the idea of how many Christians there are in the world. 2.4 billion Christians in the world, 1.6 billion Muslims, right? So it's 3 billion people that believe in this one God, right? In completely different ways. But how many of them actually believe it, right? How many of them actually just kind of have this nebulous, esoteric idea, right? This assumption, this vague kind of just ethereal thing out there that they pay no notice to it, except maybe on Sunday or on Easter or when somebody attacks their tribe.
You're making that point, right? Except that in terms of psychology, you're just talking about enculturation, right? Yeah. Enculturation is this passive thing that happens. It's the very ideas and beliefs that are baked into the environment in which we are raised, and we don't question them, right? But they're beliefs nonetheless, but they're passive beliefs. And it seems like
automatic acceptance.
Say that again.
Automatic acceptance, because it's part of the culture.
Automatic acceptance. So yeah, I'll buy that for $1. But I think that they're beliefs nonetheless. And it seems like you're and I'm going to bust your chops a little bit. It seems like you're using an idiosyncratic definition of belief. Now it seems like you're negotiating yourself off the table. So because conversations about your version of belief have to be so laser sharp.
This gives me flashbacks to the whole JTB definition of knowledge.
Oh no! You see, now you got Shannon triggered.
Well, JTB
It's
is an
creating the
incredible
same problems, though.
JTB is an incredibly important conversation. In fact, I've spent the latter part of 5 months reading 3 new responses to the responses of the initial responses to Gideon. You know, it's still absolutely one of the most pinnacle discussions that we're having in the field of applied epistemics. Having said that, yeah, I'm using a clinical use of the word belief.
Okay.
And the only reason that I use that is, you know, again, to talk about what you and at least what I thought you and MathPig were talking about is the idea that, you know, you say, well, do these people actually believe this or things like that? Well, you know, actually, if we're talking in epistemic sense, no, they don't. And I think epistemic belief is up here, and everything else is in this area, or, you know, much farther down. So epistemic belief, when we say the word belief, like the most pure use of that word is
what I appreciate your breakdown is the acknowledgement that there are so many different levels that this conversation could happen at. Sorry for ending with the preposition, but I think that the level at the conversations that are at the level that MathPig and I are talking about don't necessarily take into consideration the epistemic reality of things, right? And that's why I think that my question for MathPig is fun. It's fun for me because it seems like he wants from people what I want from people, which is understanding. Why do you think what you think? Why do you believe that you think what you think? Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe you believe what you believe, right? You can just keep going with this forever.
I will say, though, what we've got here, what Vox is Vox, I think you've actually kind of reminded me of why I didn't like street epistemology. Because street epistemology brings in formal definitions to a person on the street without ever acknowledging that what that person means when they say they believe or they know something is probably not what epistemology would say. And so you end up not really, you don't really end up engaging what they mean. You've engaged what they've said.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's and I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah. So go ahead. You have to respond. He addressed something that you said. So.
Well, yeah, I actually agree with. I don't think that like the Bogosian form of street epistemology, but I don't think street epistemology belongs to Bogosian either, right? So. I agree that most people that get involved with it are being intellectually dishonest. My goal, I take what kind of is laid out in the practice just as a way to get an idea, walk a person through what their belief is, right? What their idea is. Why do they think these things? Because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the process of how you got from this thing occurred to here I am now. I want to know the process. And then I want to see if you think that as we walk through the process, if there's anything that you think that you've done wrong. And if you say to me, no, I don't think I've done anything wrong. Well, awesome. I'm better informed as to your cognitive processes. You're better informed of your cognitive processes, and maybe we both learn something about each other along the way.
Yeah, I think, I agree that is a good way to go. I do think you're right, though, and I think a lot of people take up the street epistemology approach, but they do it for what I would, to put in internet lingo, say is for ponage.
Yes, ponage, absolutely.
It's designed to create videos that will only affirm the audience that already agrees with them. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to make everyone else go like, well, you're just talking circles around people that aren't even like comfortable in the context that you're trying to pigeonhole them into.
And that's pure intellectual dishonesty.
I just had a revelation. I'm actually more familiar I'm actually more familiar with street epistemology than I thought I was.
I don't think that's
solely from what Scott just explained. I thought,
I don't think that's an accurate description, though, Scott. I think you're wrong there. Okay, so the reason I think it may not be correct is that, again, that can be done in, metaphysics, right? We get presuppositionalists do this all the time. That's their main shtick. of course, using that word from DD, is to mislead people with definitions and try and smuggle in the conclusion without you noticing it. And so you've suddenly got to agree with it. And that's more what you're talking about. I've also heard, obviously, I've also heard a lot of philosophical people, right, and talk this way, right, where they'll start using individual definitions, which they're not going to necessarily define because, of course, that smuggles in the conclusion early. And then before you realize you're talking down about 10 rabbit holes, which you can't really regress from without accepting or going back to the original definition. So I do think it's about honesty, like you're saying, and I don't see any reason why a street epistemologist, and for me it's just the Socratic method, but a street epistemologist, if they're honest about the conversation, when they're using definitions, they will obviously start pointing out how they're asking the question, not just ask the question straight and say, look, by this I mean X, Y, Z, not X, Y, Z. Oh, look, you've answered this. I can see that's in conflict with what I mean. Perhaps there's some disagreement with definition. Go ahead.
No, I 100% understand that, and I'm sure that street epistemology can be done that way. I'm just saying, I guess I have more issues with the execution than I do with the concept.
You're talking about the popularization of it, and I agree with you. So I agree with you that the way I've seen it done has been it's no different to me. The New Age atheist using this for Darth Dawkins or somebody, doing his. It's the exact same thing, just maybe the New Age atheist isn't calling people foul names along the way. Maybe half the time, right? But half the time they are, right?
Right.
I don't see any difference between it.
All right. So hold on.
Usually they're trying to make a video to then show to their audience and make the person
before we get deeper into street epistemology. This is going to be the third or fourth time that I've tried to ask a specific question to MathPig. And if you motherfuckers don't let me ask it.
I'm dreading it now. It's been built up that much. Like
MathPig thinking, what the fuck?
Let me give the intro music. Let me give the intro music to it then.
This is Maudy, who still hasn't figured out that a preposition is something you never, and I mean never, end a sentence with. But okay, fine.
Okay, and
anyway, you were saying, Mouty.
Dun, 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 he just got interrupted again. Let the man ask the question.
Where MathPig arrives in good and all. So my question was, because you and I have the same goals and we view very differently the answers that we get, I want to know why. Why do you believe what people tell you when they say what they believe? Why they believe what they believe? Why do you extend that? Do you think, or more appropriately, do you think that you're telling the truth about why you have come to your beliefs? Do you think that you've come to them rationally?
If you ask me now, when was the moment you lost your faith? What made you an atheist and this, that, and the other? There's a general story that I'll tell on the channel. It's my parents broke up. I was in Salian, went to the top, felt like I needed a hug, blah, 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 blah. There's the story that you tell, but it's a progression. I didn't even know the word atheist existed until 5 or 6 years ago. And as soon as I left the church, I became a fucking white-faced, black makeup, lipstick goth, hating God, So if you hate him, you obviously you're not an atheist. You're more anti-theist then. You still believe he exists. So it is a progression. So from my honest point of view, there is a story that I use to get the point across. But when you talk to me and you get down to that, you'll see that there's the progression. You'll see that I went through different stages to come to where I am now. When I'm referring that to other people, I feel like when you're asking that question, I say, what do you believe in? They give me an answer. That's the acceptance. Most people that I would be interested in talking to get an hour. Then if they're up for it, they get an after party, which is a panel like this. So I spend an hour with them. We dig down, we get to the point. So it's not an automatic acceptance. It's a starting point to go down further to find out the actual groundwork of where it is.
Exactly. Okay, so that's so again, you're singing my song. You're using my language. So with the word acceptance, when you say that you accept that that's what they said, so that you can move forward with the conversation, right?
Man, I had Mark Sargent on for a full hour. And I talked to him, and he is absolutely batshit fucking crazy. And I was as nice as I possibly could, and we laid a few questions, and I got him to admit that it's not only a flat Earth, it's a conspiracy about a globe Earth inside a simulation made by aliens. And then I did the panel, and my girlfriend came on, who's ex-NASA, and he lasted 6 minutes. She told him to, suck my dick, and that's the different approach. He then left. It's gone. But we got the hour. I got to talk to him. I got to find out why he thinks the things he thinks. I got to go and have that conversation. Yes. And then you let the piranhas loose,
Well, and keep in mind, people don't always know. I mean, they don't always accurately say what they believe. They think they're being accurate, but they're not even that consciously aware of their own beliefs, which I think dovetails into the saying
that's a different.
Okay. Right, and Maudie, I think that was something that I think kind of went past each other a little bit there, because I agree with MathPig. If someone tells me why they believe something, at face value, I'm going to take what they're saying as genuine.
Mm-hmm. As in that they genuinely believe that is the correct answer.
The root cause of why they came to that conclusion. That is what they believe. I may look at it and say, I don't know if that makes sense, and I may, but it's coming in from the direction of I think they're incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's where Shanna thinks that I'm a condescending prick, because
I bet it's not the only way she thinks.
This is one of the many inroads to seeing me as a condescending prick. Because I don't necessarily believe what people tell me when they answer my questions about why, how they got to where they are. She thinks that makes me a little bit mean, because you do think what part makes me mean then?
That was asked as if to say, what part doesn't make you mean?
I missed it, yeah.
We're picking on Marty.
If I may just toss something out here real quick, and I don't want to interrupt, but I'm going to throw two things out, because this is just how I entertain myself. So you're talking now, MathPig is now what I'm hearing is you're talking about postmodern critical theory, which is fantastic, right? It's analyzing belief through a narrative, which is the way our brain works, actually. So that's absolutely fantastic. And then you're talking about beliefs, which is even cooler. So keep going. I want to.
But Vox, everything that's wrong with society is because of postmodern Marxism, isn't it?
Oh my God!
I thought
actually, I would argue that the only things that are right about society are because of postmodern Marxism, but that might be another argument for another day.
But postmodernism is this like boogeyman of mostly conservatives, and really it mostly involves grossly misinterpreting what postmodernism is and just blaming everything on it.
No. Well, listen to what MathPig said, right? He said, I got on, I had an hour with this guy, I walked through it, and we got down to, he thinks it's a conspiracy about a globe Earth inside a flat Earth inside a simulation created by aliens, right?
And then he touched on Sandy Hook, and it was like, get the
fantastic memory.
Yeah. And so you have this meta narrative about his belief, right? And so what that is the same thing similar when you said, when I left the church, right, I became this lipstick wearing, white faced Gothic person, but I hated God, so I still wasn't a theist. And now you've gotten to this point. And so when you tell this on your channel, you're like hitting home the way that you've analyzed it. It's a story. Right, it's your narrative. It has absolutely probably nothing to do. Yeah, it's bullshit. Exactly, it's complete not a bullshit.
Yeah, as long as we agree at that level,
it's important bullshit, right? Because it's identity relations, right? It's important. So what it is it's and I talked to you about this the other day, Maddie, and the more and more I think about this, the more and more I'm realizing it's ever present. It's an emergent self schema. It's self-ID, right? This is the narrative that you have created about yourself, about something, just a simple process of one day somewhere in your abductive processes, the justifications for believing in God were no longer there, right? But you have this entire narrative that is central to your ID, it's straight out of, Western Marxist philosophy, which is, again, so fantastic. And so now you're trying to construct a belief about a belief, which further gives meaning to who you are in this sociological and psychological sense.
I find a story gives more rise to what a person is than, put you in a pigeonhole. Yeah. This is what this is. This is your label. Labels, I fucking hate labels. It's better to ask the person what they believe, and if this situation happened, how would you react, or this, that, and the other? Because there is not a single person on this panel that can be put into one box. You're going to be a socialist, you're going to be this, that, and the other, you're going to be a theist, you're going to be an atheist, you're going to have all these different labels that combine to make you who you are, which is nature, nurture, and all the rest behind it.
It's ironic that we're all in boxes, but nonetheless, I'll just say it.
Each one of us is in boxes.
I can't get out.
I'll just say it this way, which is, I had a conversation with a flat earther once for a couple of days, probably. And at the end of it, he conceded that I was probably correct and he was going to no longer be a flat earther. And I went away from that conversation going, wow, that's amazing. You can change your minds. That's just incredible. That's really good news. And he came back to me about 2 days later and he goes, yeah, I said, so you're not a flat earther. That's great. And he goes, no, I'm not a flat earther. It's hollow earth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gee.
It's hollow earth. There you go.
And I went, oh,
not a concave earth then.
And I just went, oh yeah, of course, it's just confirmation bias. And the reason is because at bottom we don't have rational justifications, and we really want rational justifications. So we have to search around and believe, if we're not being honest, and I don't know is not a good answer that we can accept.
Well, that's why we need systems. That's why we need systems like science and philosophy that have firewalls, right? Like psychology, it's the ability to study the mind without falling into the pitfalls of the mind. Mm-hmm. And that's because there are protocols and firewalls and ways of self-correcting. Like these are necessary in order to get to the, I guess, rock bottom foundation of things. Right, but at the same time, that's useful in its lane. Having a conversation with MathPig, it's going to be more fun. It's going to be more entertaining. It's going to be more connecting. If it's
going to be easier to get the truth from them. If you walk up to a guy straight on the street, start asking questions, he's on guard, he's this, that, and the other. You spend an hour talking to me, 20 minutes in, you're nice and relaxed. By the end of it, you're very comfortable. And then I put you in a pit of piranhas, and not only do you want to, you're happy about it. And you stay for the hour and you come back. Because at the end of the day, it's sort of, what I used to say is we aim for an Irish pub on a Friday night. You can come in, you go down the back, you play pool, you play darts, your friends buy you drinks, you argue, you might have a fight, but when you come back next week, the cunt that punched you in the face will buy you a pint.
That's funny. But my analogy is the dinner table, right? You have arguments at the dinner table. You can disagree, but you're not disagreeable. And at the end of the conversation, you're still all eating dessert together, right?
Right, but
so it's the same kind of analogy.
I know that's all great and stuff, and you're right, guys. But I'm still going to push you here, Christopher, specifically.
Please.
It's the confirmation bias, because, again,
what's the confirmation bias?
Well, that's what is driving us, right? To have these views which we think we can justify, which other people are going to go, no, that's not a justification. You've got no evidence for that. You've got no epistemic warrant to believe that is the case.
Yes, on the individual level, but I'm trying to talk about on the general level. As humans, our brains are prone to this.
Right.
And from that, I'm deducing within the conversations that I have with individuals that is happening.
Which you might.
Sure. I agree. But when you were talking to individual people, right? We're pushing them, or using this street epistemology thing, right? We're pushing them down to a base, right? And we're trying to find out the bottom reason, right? Now that, if you look at that and you go, okay, bottom reason, well, that doesn't make too much sense, because firstly, they're not going to be justified in that sense that we're going to be able to say, this is a reasonable thing, this has warrant to believe it, right? We're just going to have to take it on faith that is the starting position, and someone has to say at the bottom view they don't know, right? That seems to me like self-evident in terms of just trying to be consistent within a worldview. And then secondly, quite often people don't want to get down to that level, right? And the thing that stops them is that they have this bias, right? They have a bias because the presuppositionists go, well, God exists, God explains everything, right? And that's their confirmation bias working overtime. The Bible is true because God exists, because it says in the Bible God exists, right?
So,
and God wrote the Bible, and here we go, round and round and round, you know.
So here's my pushback against your push. Oh, hold on a second, because D, you haven't talked in a while, so I want to hear from you for a little bit.
I mean, this is just me surmising. I feel like a belief in a flat Earth and a belief in God, obviously it depends on the individuals, are very different. And I'm going on conversations I've heard and had with flat earthers. I think it's more to do with their psychology. Well, I suppose it is, in that they seem to want to believe in something special that no other. I know there are more than one flat earther, but it's kind of like I remember saying once to a flat earther, if you really believe these things, why don't you start with talking about things people can get on board with? And then instinctive, because I think, because they have this kind of black and white. If you don't believe the Earth's flat, then you believe everything your government tells you. I mean, that's a bit hyperbolic. That's pretty much what they say. And I say, why don't you start with the smaller things that people can get on board with? If you genuinely are concerned this is the case and you want to make a change. And the reaction was, don't you tell me what to say. And I'm not. I'm asking you a question. Why don't you do this? And they're so defensive. And you think as well, after years of being a flat earth or any other conspiracy, you know what the reaction to you is going to be. Have you not worked out a different mechanism than just getting angry? Right. There might be flat earthers out there that don't get angry, but all the ones I've come across get very angry and very defensive and very much, I know this and you don't know this because you're just a sheeple.
I've not met a conspiracy theorist who didn't believe they were being persecuted.
I met one flat earther in actual real life, in physical contact, in work, where he stood in front of me and threw his wallet up in the air and watched it come down and then tried to make the argument for buoyancy. It ended 15 minutes later with me screaming at him, get back in your fucking lorry and go learn some mathematics. Just fuck off. Fuck off. No, as Dee says, they are just, no, I know it and you don't. There's no willing to learn. It's just bullshit.
No, it
comes from insecurity.
It's a superficial understanding of philosophy that's weaponized. But I mean, so Sam, you just go ahead. I'd like you to respond to that since I was replying to you.
Well, I actually disagree with that. I think that the conspiracy-minded people, we approach them from this idea of, oh my God, you're so stupid, right? You can't actually believe this, right? But we're ignoring the fact that there is a psychology behind that, the victimized mentality, all the things that go along with that, right? The conspiracy is a symptom, right? It's not the cause of anything. It's just a symptom of something else. It's almost like drug use is merely a symptom of trauma. That's all drug use is. It's a symptom of trauma, right? And well, I'd say drug abuse, right, is a symptom of trauma, right? And so when we look at these conspiracies, these people, right, they drive us nutty. What do you mean? You think that the earth is hollow and full of lizard people that are controlling Donald Trump to find pedophile liberal Democrats that are sacrificing babies for some kind of thing that happens in their brain? And it all just sounds nonsense.
No, the nonsense part is that it's happening in the brain. Everything else is legit.
But the idea behind that is that, you just got to throw all that away. You got to go, okay, what is going on? What has affected this person such that they are capable of, tossing aside what we would generally consider to be critical thinking apparatuses? And by the way, if you are honest with yourself, you have insane ideas, right? Yeah. We all do. It's just that we're better at hiding the insane ideas that we have.
Or
where these people
are
are
being
not.
Insane.
Exactly. So the conspiracy theory people, I give a huge amount of birth to, if you will, right? I don't ever, or at least I try not to ever attack them or call them insane or things like that, because they are, there's something about them that's different.
That shuts them down. You insult them, you say things like that, that shuts them down. Like, there's a stream that me and the girlfriend did, and she is the co-host of my channel most of the time when she's there, and I would have people on, we ask them questions together, and she is totally on the opposite side of my opinion. I will bring absolute crazy fuckers on to talk to them, to find out why they think the crazy fucking things that they do. And well, she's a scientist, she's a climate scientist. She's like, do not platform anti-science. You're giving them a platform. The thing with that is, because I give them a platform, they bring with them 20 of their audience. You generally find that the smaller channel, people like us have smaller channels. These crazy, oh, there's my camera flickering. It'll come back. We have these people who are crazy generally have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. If at least 1% of their audience comes to see them, and then we can get 1% of that, you're still getting 5 and 6 people that have now left thinking more critical.
Sorry, MathPig, I need to interrupt. Kathleen, you're hot miking.
Sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead, MathPig. Sorry about that.
No, that was it. Just we were on a stream, and the stream was a topic of why we do what we do, and me and the girlfriend got into a full-blown fucking domestic because we were totally disagreeing, you know. And it's, I will go forward and still platform some of these crazy fuckers because you get their audience. I'm not trying to convert, you know, Mark Sargent. I'm trying to get 3 or 4 of his audience to think when they leave.
Well, the other thing, and I wasn't trying to virtue signal there at all, right? It's just the idea that, you know, like, think about the way we treat certain people in society, right? And conspiracy theorists are going to be one of the ones that we treat fairly badly, right? And we all know that the war on drugs failed, right? And we finally realized, like 45 years later, that drug addiction it's a sickness, it's an illness, right? It's the conspiracy theories and things like that. So I'm always very concerned about the way that people that have those beliefs or those ideas of things are treated, right? Because it's just to ignore how they got there, right? And it's just to look at them and be like, oh, you're dumb, you're not an agent, something like that. And it's the way we treated drug addicts for an extremely long time, right? You're just a degenerate, you're just born bad, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Well, that's it. It's about accepting people for whenever they're willing to talk. If someone's willing to talk to me, I'll give you the first go. I'll give you that acceptance. If you come and what you talk is bullshit, I'll make an absolute, like, you know, we had Darth Dawkins on once. Well, actually, we had him on twice. It was a drunken decision the first time.
Why did he agree to come back the second time?
He agreed to come back the second time because the first time we put him up against Richard Madsen, who is an ancient alien believer, and then he wanted to come back and talk to someone who knew what they were talking about, as he put it. So we put him up against Randolph Richardson, who's the leader of the Canadian Atheists, who's Canadian and too nice. And I stepped in a million times, and I must have muted him. Oh, I lost count, man. Don't even watch the debate. Just go to the questions and answers at the end. I'm muting Darth that much. He's coming back screaming, not realizing he's being muted. It's just, fuck you. It's brilliant.
So you're saying that you lost your temper. Your approach is to let people talk.
No, my approach with Darth Dawkins was bring him on and let's get drunk and make fun of him because it's Darth Dawkins. But generally,
by the way, I thought, and this, correct me if I'm wrong here, I thought that this was going to be Maddie cooking. I don't see Maddie cooking. So,
here's the fun part about that. Here's the fun part about that. I don't have anything to cook. Like normally on Sundays, it's like hard-boiled eggs and like rice and meals. But yesterday I spent so much time in the kitchen. We have leftovers, and you know, I can make like hard-boiled eggs. Only take like 12 minutes. So like,
I disagree, Christopher. I mean, you are literally cooking that screen.
If you
oh dear Lord!
I made stuff.
Yes, honey.
It's like cooking apple sauce over the top and everything and all. Like, it was very nice. Didn't even know this was a cooking stream.
Well,
anyway, so I'm going to step in for Maddie, and we're going to make garlic infused escargot in a cream sauce.
Nice. How are you going to flavor the cream sauce?
French food.
Garlic,
Fabio,
dill, salt, and pepper.
I've just been used to too many streams with Dave and Manda. My mind went to the gutter. I apologize.
Oh, man.
I'm struggling to get mine out of it.
I don't know who you're talking
And by
about.
the
And I think I'm
laugh,
glad
Come
about
over and join Critical Cripples quiz on a Tuesday night. It gets absolutely disastrous sometimes.
I'm sure I've seen that name recently.
I've seen it recently as well, and I know. Anyway, let's just say hello to Sam and Fab.
Exactly. Sam, how you feeling, man? How's your shoulder?
It's been better.
Oh, wrong answer. What's the pain level today? Scale of 1 to 10. 10's the worst.
Right now in this moment,
yeah,
like probably like a 1, thankfully. But I just put some topical cream on it, so I'm feeling a little bit better.
So do you have things scheduled
for
or assessment?
I haven't seen that. I haven't talked to the doctor yet, so I don't know yet.
Hasn't talked to the doctor yet.
Oh, so, shoulder injuries are the worst.
I'm sorry, Dan. How did you hurt your shoulder, and what have you done?
Why did you do it?
Not me. Like it was the world-class black belt who decided to throw me on my head.
Oh.
You say that like you didn't deserve it. No, it's I
did not deserve it. No, I don't. No, I didn't deserve it.
The thing is, they weren't actually fighting; they were talking, and Sam said something.
So, what is it about the world-class black belt that gave you the idea to fight him?
Well, I thought we were just gonna, because I've sparred with him before, and I thought we was just gonna be sort of a normal thing where, they kind of, they don't go full bore, but I was wrong about that. And I just got fucking wrecked.
Okay, what did you say to him 5 seconds before you went on the mat with him?
Nothing. We just fist bumped and we were going. There's nothing. I did not bring this upon myself.
Have you had the MRI reviewed?
No, not yet.
When
are
you scheduled?
Not this week, but next week.
Okay, so it is scheduled.
The follow-up, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the surgery. If I need a surgery.
All right, we're gonna call you after this.
You consider going sooner.
We're gonna call you after this. Just saying.
Okay.
That being said, Fabio, what's up?
Fabio, hi Fabio.
Hey, hey, I'm fine. How about you guys? Well, I don't know what you were talking about because I was having dinner. So.
Oh, what weren't we talking about? We started talking about everything, and then we narrowed it down to street epistemology, and then we started talking about everything again, and then it became about beliefs, and then it became about everything again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And we also have Chris. Zen, what's up? This is... Well, hold on a second. I want you to say hello, and then I have some things to say.
Hello, everyone. I've been... trying to figure out where the combo was going to since I popped in a little while ago, but yeah, it's been following it around. It's been fun. So
good. So Zen has this amazing ability to eat amazingly spicy food and pretend like he is just taking a walk in the park. So that is his superpower.
I like Zen already.
Thank you. There's a lot of stuff coming eventually.
My local Indian does pizza. I go and get my pizza from the local Indian. It has got spicy base, spicy dough, spicy toppings. Yeah, I like that.
All right. So
hello, Barbara.
Oh, no.
Sorry. I didn't ask me to say that.
Okay, so like mouth-wise, I can tolerate decently spicy food these days. The problem is that I will be pouring sweat.
We have a running phrase in Ireland. It's like you're sweating like a priest in a Barney suit.
Oh my God!
Is it ever so hot
that
that you get high though?
Against Catholics.
What I find interesting is that if somebody's cooked something, my partner or my friend Mick, if they cook a really hot curry using ginger, they find it hot and I don't. Whereas if it's chili, they can take more heat than I can.
Ginger is a different kind of hot, and
Yeah.
some people
It's
it just
like horseradish, right? It's
Right,
like,
yeah.
it's a very
Yeah.
fast onset, quick release, as compared to the slow build, long term. You see, oh man, I wish Sokka were here right now, because I have a whole spiel prepared about him being so good at the bottom game of eating spicy food, whereas I'm good at the top game. So I'm not going to get into that speech here, but just know that it exists.
The only one time I had a severe problem, well, not a severe problem, it's quite fun actually, is that every now and again, was it Mick or was it my husband who made this curry? I don't know if you do that thing where you chop onions really finely and almost burn them and sprinkle them on top of your curry. I don't know why I'm doing hand actions. It's not like anyone can see.
Oh, that sounds great.
But it is nice, and it gives it kind of nutty flavour to it. But they'd fried it up with a chili, and they had forgotten to take the chili out. So I inadvertently ate this whole chili. It'd been fried.
We have Kayla in the comment section saying that they can't do spicy foods too often.
Oh yeah, it can be quite a bad.
I couldn't imagine that.
Oh girl, yeah. Nasty bit.
All right,
but
so
yeah, then I was just going to say I
food.
ate this whole chili, and at first I was kind of like, oh, well, it's not too bad, and then gradually the heat built up so much, I was actually stoned for the rest of the night.
Oh, good for you.
It was quite nice in the end. I kind of thought, oh, this is nice.
I've never had that.
So hold on a second. I want to change gears because I wrote down notes of the previous conversation we had about 15 conversations ago. And this is directed at Simus, and I want to get to this.
Oh, I get my own Mouty slap. Come on.
Here it comes, baby. So you were talking about, you were almost defending street epistemology in a way that I wanted to make a distinction, which I think that needs to be made. And I think it might be the difference. It might be a difference between MathPig and I. It's the difference between, no, not this one. Persuasion versus understanding, right? Because street epistemology starts with a premise. Oh, look at those escargot. Starts with the premise of the value of truth and all of that. It seems like loaded questions are being asked as a way to persuade. And okay, so here's where the MathPig part comes in. Whereas it seems that at least for phase one of MathPig's strategy, it is about understanding. Phase two is being held accountable for how you have vocalized your understanding of why you believe it.
If I can just, like something that Scott said earlier, you know, he will agree with me in the point that at the surface level, he would accept them. You know, he'll lean back and go, oh, but, you know, you'll continue the conversation. 20 minutes down the line, you may come to something that they say that is in confliction with what they originally said, and that's when you pull them out. You know, you don't say to them at the start that there's a problem. You wait till they get to the problem themselves and they say something that's in confliction with what they've said before.
I mean, I think that speaks to the value of when you can give them an internal critique of their view as opposed to an external critique.
Because it's not led. They are telling a story. You didn't lead them in any direction. They told a story, and of their own volition, they contradicted themselves.
And you can approach, the best part about that, I think we can agree, is that you can approach it in so many different ways. Right.
I think from a intellectual combat's position here, I'm going to have to go out and teach these people that the proper answer to this question is just, I'm a dialetheist.
What?
You're I'm gonna have to, is that
if you want the ultimate answer to raise more questions.
Yeah, dialetheism is just the idea that true contradictions exist, right? So when you point out a contradiction in my worldview, well, I'm just a dialetheist, so it doesn't matter.
From the Greek, twice and truth is the view that there are statements which are both false and true. I've never heard of that word before.
Yeah.
Okay. I find when people come to you,
admittedly, that is a conversation stopper. As
the actual word itself,
as fertilizer to nurture more and more conversation. But
I find that whenever you let the person come to you to tell the story, whenever you make yourself available, like I would go to Christian channels and go to Christian hangouts and make it known that I am an atheist and just hang around and just chat and talk shit. And, you know, if they then come and watch, I see them in my audience, and I would do interviews with audience members as quickly as I would do an interview with Aaron Rad just to get to know them. And I find that if you leave it available for them to come to you, then they're more open, they're more willing to have the conversation. And to get to the actual honesty, as you said, Christopher, when you ask them, how do you take them on their surface value? Because I take them on their surface value because they came to me open to say this. I didn't drag them onto the channel. I didn't lure them onto the channel under false pretenses or anything like that, you know. They came to me with the conversation. In real life, I bought a license plate that said 666 and my initials. And I wait till people come and ask me about who owns the car with a fucking devil number on it. It's a, you know, when you start a conversation, you go down that route. Like,
you live in Ireland?
Northern Ireland.
And you have a Jesus.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, on a black.
That'll get some attention.
Yeah. I can respect that.
In Ireland.
Yeah. I got to give you respect for that one. That's like going into Cape Town and saying, you know, well, I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, it's some mad respect for that, mate.
Oh, black car, the whole wee Lucifer-looking, evil-looking car with the 666 on it. Yeah, it really looks.
That's like walking into the fucking airport and screaming jihad at TS.
But it's a good conversation starter, man, and it started like.
It can be. You're confusing a can be with an is.
Well, I've never had a bad experience. I've never ended after a conversation of why that started, ending with an enemy at the end of it. I ended up with a friend at the end of it that we exchanged books back and forth. It was an old Earth creationist. It was actually his son come in, and I had conversations with his son because his son used to go out to the university at night at 4 a.m. and hand out these leaflets and tea to drunk people. You know, so I started a conversation with him, and then his father came in to ask me questions, and we built a friendship over about 2-3 years, exchanging books, exchanging conversations. We had a row about abortion in the middle of the work floor, and I had to go apologize to customers, but yeah, we had a friendship. There was something built there for me.
Mama Atheist has said he lives in Pretend Island.
She just likes.
It reminds me of that joke, though. They what is it? They pull you over at a checkpoint, and they say, "Are you Protestant or Catholic?" You say, "Oh, I'm an atheist." Yeah. But are you a Protestant atheist or a Catholic atheist?
At that all the time. Like funny story. When I put the 666 on the car, my mother said to me, "You're going to get pulled for that." And I literally got pulled about a week and a half later. And when they pulled me, I was just to come up to the window, and I was like, "Was it the plate?" And she was like, "It was the plate that made you pull me over, but it's because your insurance is out of date." And I literally was waiting for the company to switch from the day before to the next one. The paperwork just hadn't went through, and my license plate was checked, and it was a problem with the insurance.
Yeah.
A week and a half after I put it on. It
was interesting because when we were talking earlier, and I was saying, like, I don't know why I'm an atheist. I just am. Yeah. I know it's a bit pathetic. And I was thinking, I wonder if to some extent how cultural that might be, because where I am, now not all, I'm sure there are parts of
that's
England.
The most honest answer, D. I don't know. It's the best answer.
Yeah, I've never believed. But I've never had to even pretend to believe. I've never been in a really religious place. Well, I mean, church. Do you know what I mean? There's no conflict in any situation I've been in real life regarding religion.
My mother's religious. She did the whole religious thing when she got married. She got kids. We go to Sunday school, you know, and then the kids, we went to a Presbyterian Sunday school. She stepped in one time, didn't like it. She took us out and sent us to the Salvation Army. Salvation Army did both Protestant and Catholic, and she was up to and open to the mixing of religions in Northern Ireland in the time that it was, you know, cross-cultural and all that sort of thing. And I would say that it's, you know, I've told the story and I've said it's a progression, but as much as my mother was a Christian, growing up, she gave me the Hardy Boys. You know, she gave me 500 questions and answers. She encouraged critical thinking in me from a young age. So even though I went through the religious thing, when I had my moment of losing faith, the critical thinking kicked in. You know, it's like you go down this line, and as long as it took, but there was always that foundation that she gave in, that, you know, always ask questions, always question why, doubt everything.
Yeah, I was brought up like that. I've no idea if my mother, I know both my parents were Catholic through birth, for want of a better term, and technically speaking, I am a Catholic through birth.
Unless you've signed your bit of paper to get out of the Catholic Church, you're still a Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's correct. You just lapsed.
Well, yeah, I'm lapsed in more ways. Anyway, moving on. Shushty.
Same.
Keep your old saggy tits to yourself.
So, just out of curiosity, because I know that there's a couple of you guys in here that like to do psychology and things like that. What is it, if you look at your food and you look at it and you say, well, that resembles a specific body part? What would that be? Because I am looking at these little fuckers. Maybe. I'm looking at these little fuckers. Now, I don't mean to be NSFW for a moment, right? But does that not look like a bleeding fucking vagina? Right there.
Are you saying it's yonic?
This is softcore for Critical Cripples quiz. This is very
right.
Well, there is the female version of a phallic symbol, which is a yonic symbol.
I mean, that looks like a damn labia, doesn't it?
Not like any labia I've been attracted to.
Simon's seen a few.
Right. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, as I said, well, I mean, my father is still a Catholic. We were pretty much, if you want to go to church, you can go. If you don't, you don't. I did occasionally go to Sunday school. I couldn't even tell what my parents' political views are either, because I'm sure they have. Well, my mother's dead, so I can't ask her anything. But they didn't want to impose themselves upon us, and they didn't. And I mean, my father's psychiatric nurse. What can I say? I'm surprised he didn't actually know. But it's like, as far as I know, my sister Mary, well, she claims to have been a Christian. I don't know if it's convenient for where she lives. I'm not sure. It's kind of like, but there's no, like, I was shocked when I came onto the internet and discovered how some parts of America, people just won't even admit they're an atheist. I'm like, what are you talking about? What the
Amanda got followed home when she moved to Georgia. When she started up an atheist group, she came from, I better get this right, I'm going to get my ass kicked. But she moved from Connecticut down to Georgia to go and look after her parents. She started up an atheist group and she got followed home the first night.
So I live in Connecticut, and I could say that, like, around here, and I found this to be generally true of New England, people, you go to church on Sunday, and maybe you socialize during that with the people in church and have a religious discussion. But outside of that, in public, people don't talk about religion. It just doesn't come up.
Yeah,
it's viewed as a private thing.
Yeah, something like along the lines as Nick said, there's a joke over here that all Catholics are Protestants and all Protestants are atheists. It's sort of a cultural thing that you do. You go and you do that. You have to do this. You have to do that. My cousins are Church of Ireland. They wanted to get married. She had to make sure that she went to church a certain amount of times for a certain amount of period, and then have conversations with the minister about a proper wifely this, that, and the other, and proper marriage and all the rest of it before that they could get married in the church. Like, they still segregate schools over here, for fuck's sake, between Catholic and Protestant. My wee girl is a Catholic on paper, and it was one of the things that me and her mother agreed with, that she would go to a mixed school. It's disastrous over here that they're still at that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you did finally pass I don't know much to, but at least part of the island did finally pass, like, the abortion bill, right? So you can do that. So there's progress.
There is progress, and the amount of people that came home for the change of the LGBTQ, the amount of young people that transfer or came home from England when they were in university, there was a massive wave of that for them to come home and vote on it. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, there was some deal with the EU regulations, though, wasn't there? It was kind of like
the EU regulators. A percentage of us must be gay.
No, it was politically. It was
it's all that Brexit's fault. That's because of Brexit. You see.
It was politically.
See, we're all going to become homophobic now.
It was politically prudent for Ireland to pass that law, shall we say? So I think the upper echelons and those that were in the media had a genuine reason to try and pass it against the Catholic majority.
Considering how the constitution in Ireland is, considering how it's such a religious constitution to start with, and they've had it for so long, there is more progression moving forward. You look at America that started off the way it was, and not a religious country, so to speak, and freedom of religion and state and separation and all that crack, but it's created such a polar opposite on both sides, that it's taken over. Where in countries like England and Ireland, where it started off and you have an actual church of the country, that people have just got sick of it. It just became mundane and they just got bored, and still people go culturally and still take part in it. But
well, again, for me, it's one of these things I noticed way back in the 70s in this country, late 70s, is that people vote along the lines that the media tends to tell them. The media are very good at creating a narrative, and people are very quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, people are very quick to jump on that narrative when they feel it's the winning team. So I'm very skeptical that even majorities in countries have a big say over how their country is run. I think it's more a minority at the top and supported by a media.
Well, since the Good Friday Agreement,
minority, right?
No.
It's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil.
You're right, Robbie. You are in trouble with your partner.
Yeah, I know. I missed out Arizona. In Northern Ireland, you vote for the person to stop the other person getting in. And the stupid part about that is because since the Good Friday Agreement, we have set up that we must have both, an open government that has both a representative from the Catholic and the Protestant side. And you have the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister, which defines levels of power. But you can't do anything without the agreement of the lower. They're on equal power. So it makes no difference who the fuck gets in as number one and number two. They're both still the same level. Then nobody can agree and fuck all. And we had no government for 3 years. It's a disaster at the state. And I understand why they did it at the time. But the public has moved on, and they're not at that stage now where it's black and white. There should be a third party. Everybody says there should be a third party, but it's
but that's not really a religious problem. It's political. Right?
But that's the thing in Northern Ireland. Religion isn't religion as in what church you go to. Religion is what you vote for or who you vote for.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you give another name to a party, but it's politics anyway. I don't think that religion plays that much of a part in it. I mean,
do they pretty much go hand in hand in Northern Ireland, though, or no?
You see, there's things like I'm a Protestant atheist, and I could say that if I went to where I grew up and went 3 miles up the road where they have a 50-foot Union Jack that they got off an aircraft carrier flying in the middle of their estate, that if I went up and said that I agree with about 70% of what Sinn Féin says, I'd probably get my knees done in. That's where I grew up.
No. Listen, I mean, I understand. What I'm trying to say is that is not something which comes automatically because of the religion difference.
No,
I mean, we have the bloody Pope here, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can't get closer to the Pope that we are. But regardless, we have abortion, we had civil unions between gays, so that is not an issue.
Yeah, there's something to be said for one party rule. When I was growing up, you just knew that the boys were in charge of everything until 91, and then after that, you just knew the ANC was in charge of everything. And it just makes life really easy, because it doesn't matter what you do, the ANC is always going to be in charge in Pretoria. So what you do?
But some Scandinavian countries nearly always have not a hung parliament. What's the word? When you've got more than one party in, and it works really well. So is it a cultural thing? Is it that the left and the right refuse point blank to agree with each other, even if they agree with each other? Or
yes, well, in a lot of places.
Whereas some, I can't remember which Scandinavian country has what's the bloody term?
Well,
got several parties in.
Most of Europe has a multi-party parliament.
Yeah.
I mean, except Britain, which is not Europe anymore, because fuck you. But
thank you very much.
Geographically speaking, we are still in Europe. We will always be in Europe, and I will always be a European. Now let's change the subject. You've triggered me.
Very hard. You see, I get shit for Brexit and the way I look at things, and I have reasonings for why I voted the way I voted in Brexit, where I generally get shit for.
I agree with this European guy down here.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we can all just agree
left instead of
that the entire world at this point is just better off ignoring what goes on in Europe, right? We just ignore it, right?
But we ignore the rest of you, so it's only fair.
Well, I mean, this is what the UK is trying to do, but you know.
Well, no, the United Kingdom is part of Europe. I'm sorry, you're not separate just because you think you can vote yourself out, right? It don't work that way.
Geographically speaking, you can't get rid of us.
You're no longer part of Europe. Oh, piss off! Yes, you are.
We're not part of the European Union.
Yeah,
you're not part of the union.
Certainly creating enough of a spectacle now.
Yeah, it's like
Chris, help Chris. Chris, help! It went Brexit. Chris, help!
It's like
what's going on right now?
We haven't been part of Europe. We haven't been part of Europe since about 4000 BC.
All these
like that.
Oh yeah, that's where it's at. You're on the same continental shelf.
This bullshit conversation. I don't know.
12 minutes on your egg, then, Chris. Yeah, 12 minutes for an egg. Yeah.
It's like it'd be like if the boys came up and said, "Oh, you know what? You know, Mandela is not part of South Africa. No, Pretoria is not part of South Africa.
Get the fuck out of here with this conversation. Get the fuck out of here."
I freely admit it. While I'm not ashamed of being English, I'd rather be Spanish, French.
You'd rather be Spanish
or Italian. I'd rather be Spanish, Italian, or French.
Have you seen
the last bit I said there, though?
Have you seen the imitation of what this should be? Seeing as you're from England, no.
I can't. What am I looking at? Sorry, you asked the question again.
It's a scutter.
A scutter. Oh, right, from Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf.
Yeah, very nice.
What is
Red
that?
Dwarf. Why has it got an eye?
I can't.
I thought it was like an
I can't
animal.
do the. I don't have a scutter eye, but
that's what threw me off. I just thought it was some kind of weird sexual
like
fetish
a
that you
bicycle
had.
A friend of mine said last week. Dave actually said last week. It sort of looks
an
like
anteater.
This is actually my dad did my dad did a tour in Afghanistan. He brought this home for me, and it keeps the sound. I don't use headphones, and it helps keeps the sound back. And my friend said it looks like a scutter, so I was like, "That's got an eye. It is a scutter."
It looks like a bicycle seat with an eyeball on it. I can't really tell though.
You're taking away from it all, Vox. Taking away from it all.
You're ruining the mystique.
Fine, it's all right. It's
fine. Look, see, I'm really bad at that though, right? Sarcasm and jokes and good humor, just I don't get them. Right? I'm just like,
oh dear.
People are like, what did you say? Fox, just shut your mouth. Come on, that's what you got to do. You just got to say, Fox, shut up.
I should advise you now. At least 35% of everything I say is probably sarcasm. Just to let
I feel like maybe I should have warned as well that I'm a smarmy son of a bitch.
I don't think you're using that term correctly.
Maybe that's not a fair way to say it, but I'm sarcastic as hell.
I've been on very good behavior tonight.
Irish I've never heard a sarcastic Irish. Keep a straight face.
Whenever Christopher was talking about tribalism, or was using the phrase tribalism, it came to mind that I actually did specifically do a stream with Dragnot Silvas on tribalism in the community. And all right, I'll say it to make him happy. Stay away from me, Lucky Charms, because he likes the Irish accent. He thought I was going to say that. Titan in the chat at the time, me and him were having a falling out, and I screamed and shouted and addressed the audience directly about tribalism. And I was like, you can all take your own fucking opinions and shove them up your fucking ass, because I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And if you have a problem with it, unsubscribe and fuck off. And
hold on a second. Why would you? That sounds extreme. Where did the conversation go that was how it ended?
Well, it was because well, that's going into personal nature, back forth, and his says this and I say this and this, that, and the other, and interpretations and stuff. But I disagreed with Titan. He disagreed with me. It came to the point where I will not support something that disagrees with my principles, and fuck you. I won't. I have my standards and I have my principles, and I'm not like, me and Titan are best buddies now. He was sending me pictures the other day. I'll not even tell you what of, but his half naked robot body, absolutely disgraceful. But no, we're
good half.
I don't know. What'd you say? You threw me off there.
Good half.
No, but the point is that we're friends. It's grand. We sorted shit out and we talked and had a conversation over it. But it just goes to show that me and him were good friends. You disagree on my principles, I won't step back on them. I am who I am, and that's it. And yeah. You threw me off with your little interruption, and I don't know what I'm saying.
That's perfectly fine. Nobody knows what they're saying, and I accept that in everybody.
I also have not been smoking any sort of cannabis whatsoever.
Or eating hot chilies. According to Titan, you always miss.
I appreciate that you volunteered what you're not doing.
Yes.
I think that's my favorite part of that whole thing. So hold on a second. So I only have about another 20 minutes before I got to bounce. Zen is here, Zen Shriss. So what is your take on some of these conversations? Specifically, I want to know, we were earlier talking about like the street epistemology method, which is the Socratic dialogue. Really, it's for people who don't like it, they consider it baby Socratic dialogue. For the people who do like it, they consider it legitimate Socratic dialogue. How valuable is that? If you were Chris, if you were going to have a conversation with somebody about belief, faith, whatever, do you think a softer touch would facilitate a better conversation?
That's generally what I go for. I think it leads, like it was mentioned earlier, I think MathPig was mentioning, where you're allowing people to be more open with you. So when you allow them, like MathPig was saying, to put it out there themselves and let them, in a sense, kind of catch themselves where they might be off, or make it easier for that, make it easier for you to point out where something that they started with was off to you, but let the convo go long enough to where they can kind of bring it out themselves. I think that method works. So
it's giving enough rope to hang themselves.
Right. Or it'll at least allow you to, if you thought that they were off somewhere in the beginning, letting them talk might lead you to see like, oh, I was misinterpreting what you started with. And now I can see how the way you started sounded wrong, but
I see
it cleared up by you.
So that seems like a stylistic thing for you, right? So like if you're able to be mindful and maintain impulse control in the face of hearing things that you disagree with, either they may say something that contradicts it in the future, or they'll say something that clears it up in the future.
Right.
And by stopping them each time you're confused, that fucks the flow up.
It can. Like it can work in certain places where they might be really off, but it can throw everything off if you're not allowing them at least to kind of flush out what they're saying.
All right. And that's a feel thing, right?
I think so.
Yeah. MathPig, you'd agree with that?
Oh no, 100%, man. I've been in situations where I'm interviewing people and I've had Dave or Amanda text me on Twitter and go, "Shut the fuck up, they're telling a story. Shut up." And it's just like, I'll sit there and let them continue on with, rather than, as Zen says, jump in and ask them questions and this, that, and the other. I've done it maybe once or twice to get clarification, and they're like, just everybody understands. Just shut up and let them talk. So just sit there.
I listen to convos all the time. Hearing them sometimes where it's like, if you just shut up for a second, just let them continue, and they'll say something that is even better to harp on.
Yeah.
But you're picking on this one part at the beginning that it's like they're not explaining it in the way that you're arguing back. So it's like, let them keep talking, and they'll screw it up here. Just let them get there.
So here's something I can connect to with that. So in the past, I've talked to people that have talked to other people, right? Like by the time somebody had talked to me with whatever iteration of show I had, they had already talked to a bunch of other people. And the thing that I wanted from the people that I talked to was to let them finish their thoughts, right? And that's something that was lacking. Like, so for instance, when I would see guest X talk to, persons 1, 2, and 3, they were never able to get past like this one point. My goal was, I want to hear everything you have to say about that one point.
Yeah.
Because either that is the point at which you have nothing to say and you're saying it so that you can continue a different argument, or you're genuinely being blocked from saying something you really have some deep insight about, right? And I've always noticed that just facilitating that, allowing them to talk, changes the complete landscape of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair assessment?
What I would approach sometimes now is I've stopped calling debates on my channel debates. I refer to them as formal conversations. They make an opening statement each, and then it goes straight to open conversation. And as a moderator, the only thing, as you say, is if they're stuck on a point and they're fighting back and forth, you jump in and go, look, I will take what they're saying, explain it in the way that this other person will understand it. Yeah. Can the conversation now be understood? Yes, we're good. Let's move forward on to another point. Like
active moderation, though. Active moderation.
Oh, could I just pipe in here quickly and just say, I mean, I love the hippie talk that's going on here. I love it.
Oh. Someone kick Simon.
But right, I mean, yes, the principle of charity is extremely important in intellectual, in honest dialect, of course. But there are many people in this community, especially because it's self-selected, that don't have that starting point. And obviously, I would advocate that different tactics are used for those people. Darth Dawkins is a good example where I will deliberately make up a position just to thwart his dialogue, right? Rather than actually go down my own personal thing, because otherwise I'll be there for 2 hours listening to somebody just
I've seen that happen. I've seen a particular person from Australia do that, and he came across really fake. I'm sure that you could probably do it better, Simon.
I know I can. I've done it with Darth. I know I can.
Yeah.
I don't know. Darth Dawkins never engages. He runs a script.
I'm using that as an example, right? Say, look, there is this wide spectrum of people that we can talk to, and there's no good going in with that principle of charity with somebody who is, ahead of time or proves during the conversation that they're just a dishonest interlocutor, right? There's just no point in going down that road and giving them all the charity they can get. Yes, you should let them hang themselves, and that's a reason to be quiet and let them expound, right? But surely it's not to try and understand the in-depth part and find some, no, there is no in-depth part. It's just them trying to troll, right?
You gain absolutely nothing from it.
Yeah.
I don't see the point on having a conversation if you're not going to gain anything from it at the actual end.
Oh, well, you're not just having the conversation for your sake and the other person's sake.
No, but I'm not
there's an audience.
Not your own selfish gain, but you could have a conversation with Darth Dawkins and nobody would gain anything.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think you can easily find ways to defeat or show that his view is circular.
Saying that, man, it's the top viewed fucking video on my channel at nearly 7,000 views. But
exactly, because people want to know how to show that his view is circular.
3 and 4 comments a day. People watch that at least 3 and 4 comments a day.
I want to put you under the microscope a little bit more, because it seems like you want to connect with people only to reduce their guard for when you expose them to the junkyard dogs, right?
No,
and I think
I wouldn't go so far.
That's pretty much how
you use the word only, right?
Oh, I see. Fair enough.
Right?
Fair
it is definitely dependent on the guest. There's a person that I stole from a Christian channel who used to go to the Christian channel to troll them. And I would go to the Christian channel because they did art. And I knew that they were a Christian channel and they didn't promote Christianity. It would just be a conversation that different people were available there to have. But she mainly did art and she played music in the background and we could all just have a bit of crack. And it was 3 a.m. for me just before I go to bed. So it was good. Mm-hmm. And I met this particular person there. That particular person isn't an atheist or an agnostic. They believe in, I think they're more American Indian sort of nature, I describe it as pantheism, but they haven't agreed with that, so that's their stance. But pantheism would be the best descriptor I could use to put forth to you. And that person now is 2 of my Patreons at $1 because he won't pay the $3 just to wind me up. He is supporting other people in the community. He is making videos about people in the community, and he has came and joined the community because he's open to conversation. You know, and it's moving forward from that. So I'm in a Christian channel. I've now met a person. He's now part of the community. He's now opening his aspects. He's now thinking more. He's helping other people out. He's contributing. You know,
so that taps exactly into the point that I was going to make, right? So, and I apologize, and I will retract the language of only, that absolute language.
We're seeing as we're being pernickety, you know, we're being pernickety. I find if we're around Vox, we have to be very pernickety about what we say.
Oh, that's cool. That's the best part about having these huge panel fucking hangs, man. Everyone's held to everyone else's standards in a way that if we were having this conversation one-to-one, it would be different.
And also,
we call that
if you had an opportunity with fucking Mark Sargent, would you not put him up against an ex-NASA scientist? You would. you fucking would. You know, it's going to be
So we have
fun.
a name for what you just said, right? In the community. What are you doing? Are you showing me your eggs here? Oh, you want me to show them? My son wants me to show you his eggs. He's made dyed eggs.
Oh, they look like marble.
Yeah. The
dragon eggs.
There you go, the dragon eggs. That's what they are. There you go, babes. All right. There you go. They all love your eggs.
Yeah. Some of the
go put stickers on there.
Fucking cool.
Lovely choice of colours.
So there's a member in the community that they're like their shtick is every time you say something, they'll go, "You don't mean all, do you? Or you don't mean only, do you?" Right? And we call that the concrete fallacy now, because it's the man named Concrete who does it, and that's like his whole shtick, right? Is you could spend 20 minutes explain something, and he'll come in and be like,
term that you use,
"But you don't mean this applies to all things, right?"
You didn't mean never.
Hashtag not all.
Hashtag not all. There's another person who calls it a glittering generalities fallacy, which I just think is so much. This is the wordage of that glittering generalities fallacy. This is so fantastic.
So what I understand from this conversation is that those people, they're actually good for views, and that's it. They don't advance the conversation in any way, shape, or form, which I'm fine with that. I mean, Chris knows about it. My very low tolerance for dealing with idiots.
The point that I wanted to make was and here's a phrase that might be a little triggering: the bridge building aspect, right?
Right.
It's about. Let me finish. That's up. Right.
What's about it?
Oh no, we're gonna fight. If we're gonna fight about this. If we're going to bring somebody into the lion's den without telling them they're going to come into the lion's den, we lose access to that person for future conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that I see that as a shortcoming to the strategy that I admit doesn't apply to everybody, but that bridge building strategy is more where I'm coming from. And it seems like
this is the thing, though, Chris. Right? This is the approach that I
say it again. Say it again.
This is the approach. I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Right. About bridge building and things like that. And as I've mentioned before, I mentioned the same name before, Spartan theology. A very good Christian in the channel. And through meeting him, I have met other Christians of his same ilk who would be open to conversations and open to putting forth a good argument. You know, so nobody is going to want to come and see me and him argue on X because 90% of it we agree on because he's a decent enough person, and it doesn't matter that he's a Christian, he's still a humanist at his core. But then you have people that come into the community. I can't even remember this guy's name, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, come at me in Discord. I'll debate you. I was like, right, fuck it. I don't know who you are. Grand, we'll have this. I need something to do next Wednesday. And then it turns out that he's been on Knox channel and a few other channels, and I looked at these videos, And at 8 minutes into the debate, he asked the same question as he did 43 minutes into the debate. And there is protostars, and an unseeable force started these things to coagulate together. We call it gravity. We have no proof for gravity, and we have no proof for God, so therefore the same. So protostars equal God.
Based?
Pardon? Right? That particular person came in. Knock had a go at him. I had a go at him. Jefferson Spatchcock had a go at him. Then you move him the fuck on and nobody, you ignore him. We all have our fun. We all get our views. And that particular person is not worth any content, anything after that. Give the man one. Have your fun with them. And get your 20, 30, 40 views or whatever and have a bit of fun. Because it is YouTube and we're doing what we're doing. But at the end of the day, don't fall on that. And I don't mean to call out a particular person, but like I'm going to say Knock got infatuated with Smokey Saint, and he became someone who should have been fucking thrown away into someone who was on 3 and 4 channels at the same time at one stage. I'm going to Jay's, I'm going to Knox, and I'm going to Atheist Answers in Atheism, and they're all talking about fucking Smokey. You know, and it hit him from 70 subs to 500. We don't need to elevate these people. We need to use them for what they are. If they want to come in and be a troll, we troll them. We have fun, fuck away off. But use that as an avenue to gain to talk to people who are actually willing to go forth with the conversation. At the end of the day, it's YouTube. We're playing a game here, man. We're playing a game.
Yeah, but the audience is not the same.
Opinions about what you're saying, because it is a strategy for conversations combined with a strategy for YouTube algorithms.
But that's what we're doing.
The YouTube algorithm part, I would take issue with, but that's my personal like weirdness. So
no, I get that, and you stick with your principles. And like I could go to sub for subs, and I could have been 1,000 a year ago. Like, you know, it took me to get here where I am because they're genuine people who want to watch and genuine subscribers rather than bullshit subscribers. You know.
Just so you know, MathPig, what I heard about you from specific people is that exact thing. Like you have opportunities to blow up more than you do, and you take the slow and steady course for the purposes of principle. So just so you know that reputation precedes you.
Okay, if I could jump in again here, just and maybe
jump in and dump in.
I'm gonna run off to the toilet now. I'm more embarrassed.
It was a Freudian slip. You're right. Basically, Christopher, we're getting 56 now, so 1 hour 56. So I wanted to just remind you of that, and I'm sure everybody would like a wrap up at some point when you're ready to start that process.
Oh, thanks. So
go ahead.
That's a good point. I do need to get going. So I know that a lot of people, let me rephrase that. Some of the people here just got in and haven't had a lot to say. So I would like to give them priority. So Sam, I've barely heard anything from you aside from about your shoulder and me yelling at you about your shoulder.
A theme these days.
What's that?
Used to be a theme. Everyone wants to know why I'm broken.
It just happens that right now, physically, it's the case. I guess that is your ending statement.
Well, actually, I have a question for Sam, really, which is...
Oh, God, if this is about my shoulder, I swear to God, I will reach through the screen into England and strangle you.
It's actually about being a
scientist. I still got one working arm.
It's about being a scientist. It's about being a scientist, and it comes down to, do you think that has given you some confirmation bias which you can't look past, or do you see it as, some would say, the only way to know things? I'm kind of leading you down a path there, which is not really the right question.
I mean, I think any experience is going to lead to confirmation bias, not to just give sort of a generic truism answer. I think that it's my experience, if anything, has caused me to consider science more as sort of like a human institution rather than as this abstract process that works perfectly. And that's just from personal experience having to work with it. But also I acknowledge that my experiences are kind of different in the sense that, like, I actually, you know, I'm one of the only scientists that I know that makes an effort to learn about the history or sociology or philosophy of science. science. I actually know very few scientists who are even interested in it. They're just accomplishing the task. And so I would say that it hasn't really changed.
It never comes up in lab meetings. There's no lab meeting
never.
where somebody brings up the philosophical underpinnings of what you're doing.
Yeah, never. And so I would say that it's jaded me towards some of the. So I would say it hasn't really affected the way that I see science as a knowledge gaining tool, but it has jaded me against against some of the stuff that we just see, stuff that pops up in a journal, and being able to say like, having more the confidence and ability to be like, yeah, that's in Nature Genetics, but really it's not that interesting scientifically. It just comes from a prominent lab and does this thing that's supposedly cool, and so I think that it's made me more acutely aware of where like the biases are, and it's also, I don't think it's affected what I believe the power of the tool is. If anything, it's made me a little more sort of suspicious of big claims.
I see. Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you for that. Christopher, I don't want to take over, of course.
No,
I do.
For a moment.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
For a moment. So, Chris, Zen Shris, I would like for you to chime in a little bit. I know that you've only had a moment to be a participant in here, but I know that you were part of the conversation in the chats for a little bit before you got in here. So,
I was listening in for a bit. So, I did want to say on what you had just mentioned in regards to bringing somebody into the lion's den and then kind of just, and I would say not giving them a heads up. If you're actually looking for them to be somebody that you're going to like continue to engage with,
yes,
as opposed to using them as a chew toy,
yes,
not giving them a heads up comes off as dishonest. So if it's somebody that you, all right, so if you're trying to bring them in,
what would that heads up look like? Like we're going to have an honest debate, or like if so, for instance, I find that easier.
I find phrases are very handy.
If I invite somebody into my hang, and I want to knowingly bust their balls, it's dishonest of me to be like, hey, let's have let me put it this way. I've been invited to hangs where the invitation was super shiny, happy, easygoing, and then I got into the hang and it was a fucking horror show.
I got invited to a hangout to co-host an interview with somebody who they'd met on Facebook who was a Christian, and it turned out to be a debate against a Calvinist.
Yeah, so something like that, I guess, is the way that you.
Yeah, I walked out at the end.
Warn. You're not trying to bring somebody in by presenting it like, oh, let's just have like this general convo, us and a couple people, and then you get there and it's a room full of people who are,
like a firing squad,
right?
But at the same time, my experience is different because it was 1-to-1. For me, it was 1-to-1. The name of the show was Meeting of the Minds, right? Like I had no excuse. There was no way for me to invite people to do the old switcheroo, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a name of the show like Meeting of the Minds and a catalog of shows that didn't do the old switcheroo, right?
Right.
So maybe I'm thinking of it from a very idiosyncratic way. But I want to promote the point that the bridge building aspect is what allows you access to that person in the future. And if you want to know if their position evolved, how can you gain data unless you have access to that person over time?
Right.
I reached out to Sky Out last week and challenged him on Tekken 6. If anybody knows fucking Sky Out, he is the person who went up against Knock and Drag, and when asked on his epistemology, his answer for every question was same as yours. It became a fucking meme.
God, that guy, yeah.
That guy. I reached out to him the other day because he started his channel back up, and I subbed, and he just hit 100, and he's been playing a few games, and I'll kick his fucking ass in Tekken. And we had a bit of crack in the live chat, and we talked, and he reached out to me. But that's what Chris is saying. You have to have that, banter.
Mm-hmm. But that's a whole other conversation. Like the ability to bust chops and the ability to accept the busting chops game and to make something out of it. I think that is a whole other conversation. So
everybody should just become more Irish and call everybody cunts and mean it in an endearing term, and then we'll all be happier.
Let's not even touch on that conversation. I'm made of ideas about that. So let's move forward with this. So Fabio, speaking of fucking hell cunts, that is, I immediately think of you when I hear those phrases.
Oh, you're welcome. So talking about the bridge building shit. It's really cool. The main problem.
You are a sarcastic fuck. Tell me how you really feel.
Well, the main problem is that time is too short, and idiots are everywhere. So you get to a point where you got to make choices, and that's the point I was trying to make before. I'm super fine if you talk to somebody which is a blithering idiot for views. More power to you. I'm fine. It's the name of the game. Great. You cannot go in your life thinking, oh, I'm going to build bridges with everybody, because there are some people that are not worth building bridges.
Yeah.
And I get your point that you might run the risk that you will never understand. Oh, what about if they change their mind? They might have a good point. Well, listen, it's 7 billion people on the planet. And if they're going to change their mind, they will eventually show up. And if they don't, fuck them. I mean, there is a lot of people to talk to. There is a lot of interesting people to talk to. This media gives access to a lot of persons. And honestly, I think that wasting time with somebody which believes that homeopathy is true, or the Earth is 6,000 years old, or the Earth is flat, we've never been to the moon. Yeah, really. I mean, I can have a conversation on some other topics with the same person if they're interesting, but not on those ones. And it's not because I am bigger than them. It's because I maybe have less time to devote to this kind of shit than they do. So if they're fine with that, listen, if they're fine with that and it makes them feel good, fine. Great. I mean, I've heard that there is some people which eat, horrible things and they like it. Cool. I'm go for it. But please don't serve me your dish, because I think it's shit, and I'm not going to pretend to enjoy your meal just because of your company. Let's have a drink instead.
Let's have a drink instead. There.
Yeah. Something that we can both agree upon.
Shanna's right here, just doing her thing, and out of nowhere, she's just like, I fucking love Fabio.
I know. I love her. So the feeling is mutual. No, but I mean, honestly, we got to understand and be really precise what we want to do. Do we want to build connection with people? And I'm all for it.
Yeah, but you want very specific criteria. You don't want to give a platform to people that want to take platforms away from other people.
No. Listen, so let's say, for example, I want to have a conversation with MathPig, okay?
I want to talk to you, dirty Italian.
Yeah, there you go. See, he's a cunt, but I like him already. So I think there might be something good I can get for the guy, or Zen. It's the first time I meet him. Why do I want to talk with that person on a topic that I know that we will never meet, even not even halfway? We'll be on the same spot, and we can talk until we are blue in the face, talking about something that we will never agree.
But there's no curiosity. Like, you don't have that curiosity. Like, why do they think that? That is so wrong. Like, why do they? Like that is the core of like me asking people.
That's a very good point.
No,
that is listen. That is an excellent point. My rebuttal would be that if you really want to understand why somebody thinks that the Earth is flat, you got to talk with the guy about everything but the flat Earth.
Fabio.
No, but listen, I'm dead serious about that.
You.
I completely agree.
No. Fuck
and
off.
turning it on me, motherfucker.
No, but listen, it's very simple. And I mean, I know I'm a master Kant, but, there is rationale behind my madness. I cannot engage in a conversation with a guy where I know from the get-go that he will get super defensive, he will get super aggressive, and, he will have to defend that point until he's dead. Because he is done, and then taking flat Earth, as an example. Pick your poison, it doesn't matter. I can't engage the guy on that point and pretending that I do that because I want to know the guy. Because I know from the start that this is not something that will build a bridge or knowledge. It's gonna just start a fight.
All right, Scott,
And
you have something. You're bursting to say something.
Well, I mean, because Fabio touches on something that I've actually said very often. I used to get people, particularly back in the days, the way throwback to the Nadia hangout days.
Oh God!
I liked making.
I'm that old.
I am that old.
Welcome to the old school fucking Google Plus Hangout crew.
Well, I felt special being on
and
famous and Fabio come in, but
All right, there, MathPig. But hold on here. The point is, I used to get a lot of shit from the very serious intellectual types that I engaged in too much small talk. But in my opinion, you actually learn far more about how a person thinks and what they think when you're not hitting them with these questions that are demanding they curate a response to your question.
Yeah, it's the difference between a hot and a cold emotional state, right? When you're in a cold emotional state, which is like as casual as it gets. Oh, if I were asked that question, I would do this, right? And then you're asked that question, and you're that fucking hot emotional state, and you're like super defensive and weird in a way that you're not as cool as you are in the cold emotional state.
It circles back to the phrase, hell is other people. We can't escape the fact that other people are going to have perceptions of us. But if you're in a casual conversation where it's
Scott, hell is other people.
But okay, the thing which is blowing my mind is that we just acting as if what I said is something so brilliant. I mean, it's this is one of the stupidest things I've ever said, and we all have got to agree with that. I mean, think about it. Let's say, for example, you jump on a plane, okay, 10-hour trip, and you sit down to somebody which has a pink trousers. You don't approach the guy which are going to be sitting for 10 hours telling him, oh, I think your pink trousers are shit. You don't do that.
Depends. If they're really thinking he's a good friend of mine, I will make fun of him for
No. I'm talking about a complete stranger.
Total stranger.
If you want to have a conversation with a guy, you don't approach it with something that is going to start a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, you don't want them to be defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is all my point. Now, we can say, and this is why I said before, if we really believe, in building bridges and talk with the people and thinking that people are valuable because they might think something different from us and it might be interesting, to talk to, you don't approach them on a topic that you already know is going to end in a fist fight.
Yeah, I mean, pragmatism in terms of trying to at least get something constructive out of any dialogue. And I would agree with what you're saying as well. I mean, if you talk to idiots, obviously you're going to end up looking like an idiot.
Right.
So, yeah, for sure, 100% what you said is correct.
No, but the amazing thing is that this very example, I mean, Christopher has got really, really good examples of what I've said. And he does. And I'll just mention two names, G-Man and Darth Dawkins. Because he knows, because he told me, and it's no secret, that he had a conversation with G-Man and Darth Dawkins on something besides religion.
Yeah.
G-Man was my Christian pop.
And they turned out to be, well, I wouldn't say interesting guys, but at least, normal, sometimes funny, you can have a conversation on
They were humanized. They were humanized to me. Yeah.
Right.
I remember seeing a Hangout clip where MK, another throwback there, he was all out of sorts to the point where everyone, including Darth Dawkins, was like dying laughing.
Yeah.
And it was just weird seeing Darth Dawkins being human.
Yeah.
Because he seems to come online strictly to not be like that.
Yeah, and then of course, probably, I wasn't in that conversation, but I will imagine that, his massive continence just took the best of him, and he just become, a fucking raging moron, the next second, because it's what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still nice to see that human side and know that it exists.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I'll just quickly say about MK, he was brilliant because he could change size quicker than you could smoke, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he was so persuasive. Like not persuasive. Well, like what's the word? Gullible.
Yeah,
like, just persuaded so easily.
Yeah. Like,
credulous.
Credulous, exactly. But at the same time, he let me troll Matt Bell and Darth Dawkins in the same hangout till they got into a fight, and then after that.
That was gorgeous.
It was fucking brilliant. And then after that, I continued arguing until both of them ended up getting banned. And that was MK. He was quite happy to ban them both.
I was going to say earlier there that I actually agree with both Fabio and Mouthy, depending on what mood I'm in. Like sometimes I'm like, I just can't be dealing with these twats. I really can't. Why do we give them a platform? They're complete and utter twats. We should ignore them completely. On the other hand, there's this kind of, and we talked about earlier, it's like this love-hate relationship in that I'm a people watcher. Like I hate reality shows, but every now and again I watch one because I'm fascinated. It's kind of like people like to rubberneck. I don't like rubbernecking because I might see somebody's head and it'll make me
Just
throw
tell
up.
me you don't watch Love Island, D, or I'm going to delete
I've never seen Love Island.
Good. That's all right. I was going to delete the Discord invite I just sent.
Never seen that. But I watched a bit of the Australian Married at First Sight, and it's like they're disgusting. They are actually disgusting programs because the amount of alcohol they supply people with, they keep them tired. They keep them, and they manipulate.
You're watching a train.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, if you tried this as a social experiment in a lab situation, I know you. Yeah,
it wouldn't pass the IRB. The Institutional Review Board would consider it too high a risk.
They're absolutely disgusting programs, and yet every now and again I put the telly on and one's on, and I find myself watching it, and I'm
that's why you just do a social experiment on YouTube instead.
Exactly.
That's exactly. Let's include.
I was going to say it's the same with Darth Dawkins. I can't stand him. I don't want to speak to him. But every now and again, a video will pop up, and I can't resist watching it. Why? I can't stand the guy. He's a horrible person. Full stop.
Well, D, since you have the microphone, I would like to get your final statement because we're working our way through everyone. So since you have the mic, go ahead and give your final statement.
Oh God, you've put me on the spot now. I have no.
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah, you got shit tons to say when you're not on the spot.
I got a free flow, man. I gotta just riff. Can't just.
Yeah, man. Come on, improv.
Yeah,
it's all
but
good.
I confess, I am a people watcher, and even though some of these, I don't watch them a lot, and even when I watch them, I'm like, why are you watching this? But at the same time, I'm hypnotized almost by this crap.
Well,
that's how Tom Rabbit made his life.
I would like to address the fact that you can admit that you're human. There's no shame in being human. There's no shame in wanting to watch other people socially interact in ways that engage in weird Schadenfreude and all that weird shit. But yeah, but it's in public, you have to admit that they are guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like the natural state of being. Like we want to watch other people. And the more interesting it is, the more interesting it is. and what draws interest is drama. So,
yeah.
Which is a whole other conversation about the YouTube culture. Which
yeah, you've hit 2 hours.
I'm not going to get too into that. So, all right, we got through everybody. Scott, I want you to get your last a statement in, and then I want to get a MathPig. I know I already said that your last statement was that fucking bullshit thing that you said, but that's not.
It's not a.
It's actually like 3 words.
No, it's okay. Hold on. How do we do
Okay,
this?
that's actually like that's from philosophy. That's Sartre.
Oh, so you're gonna rest on that? Okay, fine. Moving on. No,
but
that's okay.
That
We understand you're not original. We got it.
Who is though?
We got it.
There's so much out there. Nobody can be original anymore.
Originality is overrated. There's my closing statement.
I agree with that statement.
Can you make a Venn diagram for that? Because I don't understand that.
Well, I have a pie chart. For every Venn diagram that you have.
I like
It's just 2 separate circles, Fabio. Things that matter, originality.
Yeah. There you go.
There it is. There's the Venn diagram.
That's true, because if it matters,
Things that Chris Maute does, things that matter. Perfect. All right. Simus, I'm going to let you get your last word in before I throw it to MathPig.
No, I don't have any last words other than say thank you very much, Christopher. It's been an entertaining hangout. And remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell for more content of the same.
See, he's pushing the YouTube stuff.
See, that's a different conversation. Simus, are you available tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern? Because I'm going to be talking to my boy Ron.
Yeah, definitely. If it's music, for sure, 100%. Well, for you, of course, I'm there.
Flavor Tooth tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern. All right, MathPig. Final statement. What do you got to say?
Chris, thank you very much for having me on. I had, no idea what to expect coming in because I'd got no heads up. It was like, we're having a hangout, cool. We're having a cooking hangout, cool. I can't cook, cool. Look at all the people on, cool. Shit, So I really had a great time. It was lots of fun. The people that's on the panel, I have an awful lot of respect for a few different people here I've been watching since I started 2.5 years ago in this community. There's people in this panel with I never thought I'd been on with. So I definitely have to thank you for that opportunity. As it comes to the channel and what I'm trying to promote, just talk shit, make friends, speak your mind, and the tagline for the channel: think for yourself.
Absolutely. So, MathPig, I appreciate your ability to fucking surf on this wave of weirdness, right? Because you didn't know what to fucking expect.
No,
I had no idea what's going on. There was confusion up until like 30 minutes before we even started.
No, not even 30 minutes. 7 minutes going into the show, we were talking about 12-minute cooking eggs.
And that's what I do.
I'm not letting you down, that man. You spend 12 minutes of your life cooking a fucking egg. That's a waste of time.
It doesn't mean you can do things while they're cooking.
Well, I don't sleep. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. That's a waste of time for me. 12 fucking minutes to boil an egg. Just turn the fucker up. Just turn it up.
Oh my goodness. Well,
like you can be preparing the other food to go with the egg. Well,
for those of us that don't like fucking egg rocks, we have a protocol for cooking some goddamn boiled eggs.
Come to my channel tomorrow. We're interviewing overprotected atheists. There's my show. That's me done.
There it is. Promote what you got to promote. The only thing I have to promote, if it comes around to me as my final statement is, fucking everybody be cool. That's it. The end. Stop sucking.